Thandokazi Maseti. I am a lecturer at the Psychology Department, University of Johannesburg. I teach psychology at undergrad and postgrad levels. For the past 2 years, I have really been interested in critical social psychology, and that has led me to research topics around gender, around race. I've been writing, and I feel like the paper I'm working on now feels like another autoethnography. So I've been doing a lot of autoethnographic writing on just my experiences on being a Black young woman academic, in different spaces. I'm also a PhD candidate. I'm doing my PhD through the same department. And I love my job, I'd say. I think I love the work that I do here. I'm at a good place. I guess just one of the things that I really like is, the flexibility of the job. I think that helps because I also love doing research and doing other things. So I get to do that while I'm, and for me, I love that part of my job. But I also love working with young people. Challenges me a lot of times, stretches me, but also really good. Like there's never a dull moment or a dull year, I guess. Every year is just different. Every year you see a different student, and each year you teach a topic and you think you know it and you think you've got it. You think, okay, this is gonna be smooth, and then there's a different kind of student each year. I promise you, each year I see a first year student that looks different, that thinks different, that asks different questions. I'm always challenged in the most beautiful ways. Like I'm one of those teachers who get very vulnerable in the classroom, I think, and allow students to just ask questions. And obviously you don't prepare for things that students will ask you. Being able to engage for me is always just amazing. Like when a student is able to engage with the text, is able to apply what you've been teaching them, psychology, like in everyday life, that's a win. That's a big win. I mean, gender-based violence it's a disease, really, and its influence, it's becoming I don't know how to say it. But whenever I have to engage on that topic, I realize how issues like systematic issues such as patriarchy, that people would think are so far-fetched, really contribute to the burden. How we are socialized, how the gender inequalities, essentially, because that's what it is. It's one person thinking that they are deserving of certain privileges based on the sex that they are born into, and there's a system that that cultures one to think in that way, and that facilitates that kind of thinking until someone says no, until a lot of feminists, but also just general public people just say enough is enough. And there's a lot of work that's being done. There's a lot of things that important people are saying about gender-based violence. One of the conversations that I'm really enjoying is on how men should teach each other now on how to not be rapists. Because for the longest of times, we've been teaching women how to dress, how to not get raped, how to only share your location, make sure that someone knows where you are, and all of those things. So there's another focus now, but obviously there is, if you follow the topic on social media, you'll see the backlash as well, So, and maybe from a social psychology point of view, I would also say attitudes, like just how we are, I don't know, like there's all these stereotypes, there's these negative attitudes that we will associate with being a woman, acting badly, discriminating against someone on the basis of their gender. I don't know how many people out there know that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. That's one, including companies, including schools. And by schools, I mean a high school and the high school in Limpopo. And that is revealing of how mental health in South Africa is still in, It's this isolated thing. It's isolated from health. You see it in how we talk about health in South Africa and how we exclude mental health as part of health. So there's still a lot of stigma. There's still a lot of learning and unlearning. We still have to unlearn a lot of myths that we grew up with, as far as mental health is concerned. So I think we still need to have a conversation. And that conversation for me should not happen at, in academic spaces. That conversation has to happen at the dinner table. That conversation has to happen, with my friends on social media. We should actively be talking about mental health. We should actively, all of us, and this is not a psychologist thing, but this is a burden, this is a serious health concern in South Africa and all over the world. So I think we still need to have that conversation. We still need to remove the stigma, and we need to create spaces, and maybe this is one of those spaces. Mental health requires us to talk. So even when we think about dealing with mental health, how psychologists, psychotherapy would be at the center. Even if I talk to you about depression as your friend, I would still recommend that you see a therapist. So all of these methods of, routes to healing require us to talk. And for me, that talking is exactly that. Picking up your phone, but we're also a generation of texting, and if that's what we are, even psychologists and other people who work in this field, you need to start thinking of ways of meeting the people where they're at. What brings the stigma? If I have to think now as a student of psychology, and if I have to look at the history of psychology, how psychologists started speaking about mental health, there was always this normal versus abnormal. So anything that's outside of the normal, and I do want to say that may have sort of acted, contributed to that, the minute you admit to having a mental health issue, then you're admitting to not being normal. I think, how we normalize mental health is we start including, like, just being aware first that when you speak about health in general, you are also speaking about mental health. And if I need a physical checkup every year, then I need a mental health checkup. It needs to get to that point. We need to get to a point where instead of you being shocked that I go to therapy, you're shocked that I don't.